Hi, today we're going to be talking about faith. Uh, faith is an interesting issue. There really is no way to measure faith. However, even Jesus himself, talked about if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you should be able to tell a mountain to jump into the ocean, and that's found in Matthew 17:20. Um, Today I'm going to be also, many churches, they measure faith in tangible things. For example, someone in a church has a job and some money and even stories to tell the church about their different about different experiences they've had where maybe God's been there. It is translated as he or she has faith. I'm not going to deny that the person who has or is receiving these things does not have faith. Um, had this thing I was involved with for a while called Good News Mission. They do something called No Money Witness Trips, which is basically they take all the people, take the people, usually pair them up into twos, and they go out with no money and basically maybe just the clothes on their backs and maybe a few like Bibles and a few things to pass out. And they go out and witness. And the interesting thing is that oftentimes I've noticed that success is based on, if the people, if a group, success in faith and trusting God is based on if, people who got food and how much what they got. For example, I talked to a friend recently and he was talking about this experience and, someone there, said he got a huge feast and all he got was a drink of water. So, from their standpoint, I would wager to say that, this person, the group that got the feast, was successful, and the group that got the water was not very successful. Um, I would challenge this. Perhaps God knew that the person or people who had the faith, who had the feast, would abandon the cause if all they had was water. One cannot, obviously one cannot know for sure. However, if the church would allow it, no one could look at the friend who got the water as a way to fast, perhaps even if the fast was unintended. At many churches, we want to measure faith by how well someone seems to be walking with God. Maybe they're always happy and keep receiving things from God. Maybe it's because this is the only way we can measure something like this. As in the case of the food versus water example, feast is something more you can measure as opposed to a drink of water. Um, However, in the last few years, if there's one thing I have had, it is my struggles with God. I have been angry at God. I have yelled at God. I have ignored God at times. At times, I've been even wanted to turn my back on God. By many people in churches' standards, it may seem like I have been a failure at walking with God, with what I just mentioned. I would challenge this, and here are some verses I would like to mention. 2 Corinthians 12:7-10. I'm going to let you look these up, and I'll post them on my video description. So 2 Corinthians 12:7-10, Romans 5:3-5. Is that it? I'm sorry. Romans 3. First Peter 1:6-7, and Romans 7:15. And I'll also mention a quote by Max Lucado. God never promises to remove us from struggles. He does promise, however, to change the way we look at them. Let's examine some of our faith fathers in the Bible. Abraham, he was promised a son, and through the son he would receive a nation. However, he and his wife eventually got very old. During some of their struggles, he even slept with his handmaid and received a child through her. However, when Abraham was over 100 and Sarah was over 90, he received a son. During the period in between, he had questioned God a few times on God fulfilling it, yet in the end he remained faithful to God despite some struggles and wrestling. Job, he wrestled with understanding God, allowing unjust things to happen to the righteous, yet just things would come on the wicked sometimes. In the end, though, he was still faithful with God. Moses, he questioned God on a few occasions on Moses' ability to lead the Hebrews and about even God's very promises, yet in the end, God remained faithful. And then, of course, these aren't the only ones, but the last one I'll mention is Jesus, which is, I believe, something that many people miss. Right before he was arrested, he was wrestling with God and did not want to go through with what he was about to do. which in the end, thank God, he bore our sins on the cross, obtaining mercy and forgiveness for all the sins we have done before God. So basically, here's what I have learned in my 2 years that I'm referring to. I have been wrestling with God, and again, this is what I said earlier. In the last 2 years, if there is one thing I have had is my struggles with God. I have been angry at God. I have yelled at God. I have ignored God at times. At times, I have even wanted to turn my back on God. What the constant has been is that I still believe, cling, walk, and turn to God, even when I have wanted to even abandon God. I could not bring myself to do such a thing, and I still venture on seeking God. And I will end with Matthew 6:33. Seek first His kingdom and His righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. So anyway, that's what I wanted to share today. Take care and keep up the faith.